of Denzel Pope. Denzel Pope and his sister Corvette Pope back in 2024. You see Denzel there. They went over to the apartment of Paige Kalich. The Corvette Pope, the sister, was supposed to fight Paige Kalich, and as they go over to the apartment, her brother was carrying a shotgun, and he went ahead and shot and killed Paige Kalich right in front of her 3-year-old son. The 3-year-old was unhurt in all of this, and it was earlier this week that his sister was sentenced for her role. She did not pull the trigger, but she was there, and she was sentenced to 5 years in all of this, and that is the sister right there. So it looks like we're going to get some statements either read by family. So let's take you to the sentencing.
The pain that has been inflicted on our family. My name is Jane Kalich, and I am the older sister of Paige Kalich, who was tragically taken from us. Shot and killed in her own home just one day after celebrating her 24th birthday. She was more than just a sister. She was a daughter, a mother, a friend, and a bright light in all of our lives. She was funny, smart, kind, and full of love. She had so many plans, so many dreams for herself, and especially for her 2 children. She never got the chance to see those dreams come to life. Instead, her life ended violently and senselessly, right in front of the 2 people she loved more than anything in the world, her babies. I cannot begin to explain what it's like to look into the eyes of a child who has just watched her mother die. They cry for her in the night. They ask questions I will never have good enough answers for. They cling to me now, needing comfort and safety. I pray every day I can somehow get them. I never planned to be a mother overnight, but now I am, for them, because they deserve love and stability, even in the shadow of unspeakable trauma. My sister should be here. She should be tucking her kids in at night. She should be laughing with them, teaching them, protecting them. That was stolen from her, and it was stolen from them, and it was stolen from me too. This kind of pain doesn't end with the funeral. It follows us every day, every birthday, every holiday, every milestone in those children's lives will be missing their mother, and I'll be missing my sister. Your Honor, I'm asking that you recognize the gravity of what's been done to our family. My grief is permanent. The consequence of this crime extended far beyond one act. It has shattered an entire family. I carry this pain every day, but I also carry my sister's memory. I'll raise her children with all the love she would have given them, but I will never stop wishing things could have been different. Though his actions have inflicted deep wounds on many of us today, and every day we choose to celebrate Paige. Instead of focusing on the evil soul, Paige, the devoted mother, the caring friend, the beloved sister and daughter, above all, she was a beautiful, strong human being whose light and touch loved everyone around her. He stole more than her physical presence. He robbed her children of their mother, my family of her sister and daughter, and the world of her kindness and thoughtfulness. But her strength, her beauty, her love, her soul, they will endure forever, shining more brightly than anything he could ever extinguish. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. And then I think you also have Chelsea Jones.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning. Go ahead and tell your full name, please.
My name is Chelsea Jones.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
My name is Chelsea, and he's one of my best friends. Before I even begin to address him, I need to make it painfully clear who he tore from our lives. Paige is the kind of person who would give you the shirt off her back with no hesitation. The strongest, toughest, most compassionate soul I've ever known. I met Paige when I was about 13 years old. We had each other's back always. I became a mother shortly after meeting Paige, and even then, she treated my daughter like her own. The love and kindness she poured into my baby girl showed me the type of person that she would be one day to hers. Someone truly rare, someone who made the world a better place by just being in it, honestly. And then in one sickening moment, he stole all of that from us. To say Paige was the best mother is truly an understatement. She was blessed with 2 beautiful children that I've had the honor to help raise, and whom she adored and protected with every ounce of strength she had. But on July 28th, when you decided to pull that trigger ending her life for no reason whatsoever, no explanation, no justification, just ill intentions. You took her from us, from her kids who will never be able to feel their mother's love again. I don't need to tell you what a monster is, because I'm sure every time you look in the mirror, you see one. Your behavior during the trial, showing no remorse, no humanity, was nothing short of repulsive. You acted as if your cold, heartless stares were meant to intimidate us, but the truth is, it only exposed what you truly are. You proved beyond any doubt why you deserve to be right where you are, and that's behind bars. And please don't get me started on his sister, Your Honor. Her thinking someone helped by saving a case that was strong enough to put him away without her. Her words, her testimony, it meant nothing. She turned on him for nothing. And I just want him to feel that. As if her involvement with the detectives alleviated the guilt that she shares with him. It's all just more proof that neither of them deserve forgiveness or mercy. You're both just as guilty and both as responsible for ending a beautiful life and shattering all of ours. We are reminded of this tragedy every day. Not only has this loss been extremely public, but every event, every time we should be smiling the most, we simply can't because of what he took from us. Hopefully he'll never be a parent, so he'll never know how it feels every time we have to wipe a tear off one of those kids' faces because of what he did. Even though we live on, a part of all of us died with Paige that night. Today I stand before you in the court with so much pain and furious anger burning in my chest. I'm caught in a nightmare that I can't wake up from. Having to relive this terrible, unthinkable loss every single day. I want to cry now, but he's not worth my tears. No sentence can compare to the justice that Paige deserves, but I ask the judge to look at the evidence, hear our words, and see the truth. Please give this man the punishment he absolutely deserves, and that's life in jail, and even then that's not good enough, but we'll take it, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Your Honor, I believe next is Winter Carter.
Thank you. Go ahead and state your full name for us, please. Thank you, Ms. Carter. Go ahead.
Denzel, to sit in this courtroom during trial and attempt to intimidate anyone with the charges brought against you has been purely comical. No one is afraid of you. Nobody was afraid of you. And no one will be afraid of you after this. You are not a man. You had ample opportunities and you chose to shoot a female with her child present. You're deeper than a coward. You are nothing. Denzel Pope, you have no conscience, no soul, and after today, hopefully no freedom. The crimes you committed will continue to follow you everywhere you go in this life and hopefully the next. It must hurt your ego and pride that the very person you quote unquote went to war for sat and testified on that stand against you, your own flesh and blood. Your stupidity from the start to finish is exactly why you are where you are in this current moment. I have known and loved Paige since I was 14 years of age and I am currently 26. I sit in this courtroom and see her death try to be justified is sickening and anyone involved should be ashamed. Paige was the most loyal and reliable individual I have ever met. She loved her children, she loved her family, she loved her friends, she loved her community, and most importantly, she loved her life. It's unfortunate everyone around her wanted to show versus her safety, and for that, they will forever be on trial with themselves. I am not only disappointed in the attack on Paige's personal nature and character, but the blatant misrepresentation of the law insinuating and representing that fighting is grounds for execution. I am thankful for the state for representing with a conscience and with full integrity to this courtroom. I am also thankful for the verdict. I am thankful for all the memories God allowed me to have and to know, even in death, Paige's impact and presence is still in and around me. During this situation, we had to get online and see terrible content, mocking the death of our beloved friend. I say to you, Denzel, you are evil, you are demonic, and no mercy should be shown upon you. All of this for nothing, for one-sided stupidity that I cannot even call loyalty. Everyone you try to protect are all against you. You have nothing and no one, because yesterday, today, and tomorrow, you will not matter.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Ms. Mitchell, any other statements?
Your Honor, I do not believe so.
Go ahead on behalf of the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. On July 28th of 2024, Paige College was a daughter. She was a sister, a niece, a cousin, a friend. But as you've heard, most importantly, she was a mother. She had two beautiful children, 7 and 3. She was caring for those two young children on July 28th of 2024. Paige was gunned down in front of her youngest child. Her daughter, 7 years old, was just feet away. Those children, Your Honor, are now motherless. On July 28th of 2024, the defendant, Denzel Pope, walked over with a shotgun tucked underneath his coat. Your Honor, every step of the way, he could have decided to act differently, but he didn't. He stood feet away from Paige College's back door and waited for her to come out. As she steps out, after her young son in a diaper runs out, it is then that he lifts his shotgun and shoots her. Paige managed to walk back into her home. Sadly, her toddler son couldn't open the screen door. As her body blocked it and people came in to help her, he was able to get into the house. Your Honor, a 3-year-old sat watching his mother take her last breath. Your Honor, these children's lives have been changed. Paige's family's lives have been changed. He is a danger to the community. He has no regard for human life. The state is requesting the maximum sentence under the law, 30 years to life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, counsel. Your Honor, I submitted a sentencing brief. I think it outlines the law in regards to murder doctrine in the state of Ohio, in regards to concurrent sentencing and consecutive sentencing, and also in regards to firearm specification. I will also address, obviously, the issue of co-defendant and testimony. And before we get to the academic of that, I do agree with some of the speakers that both individuals are just equally as responsible for this incredible act as was found by the jury. There is no doubt that Corvette Pope's fingerprints are all over this. The direction was made by her. We know this. We know that she took the stand, and she wasn't even truthful when she took the stand. We know this because Honesty Baker said she lied. We know this because the detective, when he took the stand, said she was untruthful on the stand and lying. And so then I talk about this for one reason only, proportionality in sentences of co-defendants. Obviously, the jury found that my client was the individual that actually pulled the trigger and not Corvette. But I think everybody understands, but for Corvette, we wouldn't even be here. And as the prosecutor talked about every step he took, he could have stopped, he could have stopped. But every step he took on that video to Paige College is Corvette Pope right behind him. And she takes every step with him. And she doesn't stop him. She doesn't grab him. She doesn't do any of that. I say all that because this court issued a 5-year sentence for Ms. Pope. And now it's faced with sentencing Mr. Pope. So I say that as background for some sort of proportionality, in my opinion, in regards to sentencing. For the murder doctrine, I do believe that the act of which my client was found guilty, standing, raising the firearm to shoulder height, discharging it, completes all 4 of the murder, felony murder, the felonious assault, physical harm, serious physical harm, or felonious assault, attempt with a deadly weapon are all completed by that single act, same animus, same import. So I believe it's now upon the prosecutors to choose one of those charges upon which to ask sentence to be issued. Concurrent sentencing, we have one last charge that does not fall to murder. I understand that. That is the having weapons under disability. The tenet of concurrent sentencing versus consecutive sentencing is the need to protect the public. You cannot give my client anything less than a life sentence. So therefore, the need to protect the public by adding consecutive sentencing outside of that without having weapons under disability charge, I don't think is necessary. I think it's right and appropriate for concurrent sentencing. What we have left are the conduct specs. We know that the charges merge. But what we have are then the issue of what do we do with 4 gun specs. We do know that there is a plurality from the Supreme Court that says 2 gun specs is the maximum. We know that's a plurality. That is not a holding majority decision. It's a plurality. We do know that there is also case law from not the 9th district, but from another district that disagrees and does not follow the plurality of the Supreme Court. So, Judge, I would just ask you to follow the plurality opinion of the Supreme Court and not the non-controlling but persuasive ruling from the 8th district that allows you to assign more than 2 gun specs. I believe that the appropriate sentence for my client would be 15 years on murder, of which the prosecutor would choose to elect to sentence on, 2 gun specs for 21, and then have a weapons under disability charge to run it concurrent with all that time to this crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Polk, do you wish to make a statement before sentencing? Okay. Before I begin, I do find pursuant to State v. Ruff and the merger doctrine that counts 1 and 2, which are murder and felony murder, merge for purposes of sentencing and conviction. And I find that counts 3 and 4, the felonious assaults run, or merge for purposes of sentencing. And then I also find that all 4 counts merge for purposes of sentencing. So I am asking the state which count they would prefer or wish to proceed on.
Thank you, Your Honor. Count 1, murder.
All right, thank you. So for purposes of conviction and sentencing, counts 2, 3, and 4 will merge into count 1 for merger purposes and will not be recognized as a conviction. You know, I feel like all we do is talk about gun violence in our community, and it doesn't seem to stop, and it has no bearing on what transpires in our community. I do recognize, Mr. Jones, the sentence of Ms. Pope. That was a benefit to her as to the deal that she made with the state of Ohio. As I indicated on Monday during her sentencing, I understand the need to make necessarily deals with co-defendants in order to get who the state perceives to be the worst of the offender. I do also find that she was not honest or forthcoming as to her participation. And while I recognize that the defendant has a right to remain silent, I'm not talking about testifying in court, but what he could have done in the last 12 months instead of running to Chicago and hiding from the police is come forward, make his statement, take responsibility for his actions, and then indicate the responsibility of his sister. But what they thought they were both going to do was protect each other. And that did not work out for either one of them. I also indicated that based on the activities and the response to a physical fight and spitting is then to return with a firearm and shoot and kill Ms. Kalich while her children are in the vicinity. I'm very concerned about our youth. I'm very concerned about the future of our community. But that being said, I now become hopeful after listening to Ms. Taylor, Ms. Jones, and Ms. Carter, because I finally feel like there are people out there that recognize that this is not the proper behavior and that they are living the life that they, a law-abiding life, and that they're not tolerating, they're not kowtowing, and they're not hiding from calling out this egregious behavior. I did read your sentencing brief, Mr. Jones, and while you cite the case in State versus Beatty, which was decided by the Supreme Court, and the citation is 177 Ohio State 3rd 507. That was a decision by a plurality of the justices regarding gun specifications, and that while the statute requires under 2914B1G that 2 gun specs are required to run consecutive and are mandatory to the underlying offense when any of the offenses are murder and or felonious assault. Furthermore, and that they do not merge even though the counts merge. And that furthermore than the additional discretionary sentencing options that this court has regarding the 2 additional firearm specifications should run concurrent and not consecutive. That was decided in December of 2024. In February of 2025, the 8th District Court of Appeals in State versus Edwards, which is cited as 2025 WL 636741, rightly so, they indicate that the decision in Beatty was a plurality opinion and lacking enough judges' votes to constitute a majority, but receiving more votes than any other opinion. A plurality opinion from that court has questionable precedential value inasmuch as it fails to receive the requisite support of 4 judges in order to constitute controlling law. Furthermore, in Edwards, the 8th District went on to say that any additional discretionary sentences on firearm specifications can be run consecutive and are mandatory. And I am relying on that opinion as persuasive in order to proceed with my sentencing. I have considered the facts and circumstances of this case in consideration of the relevant sentencing factors. I've applied the minimum sanction I determined will protect our public and punish the offender without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local resources. This was done in the dark of night. The defendant fled the jurisdiction of Akron to Chicago. There was a child and children and other individuals out there in that neighborhood while those shots were fired. I will also indicate that as a juvenile, he was adjudicated for felonious assault, receiving stolen property, robbery, and intimidation of a crime victim or witness. Those underlying adjudications as a juvenile, which was what gave rise to the weapon under disability. Furthermore, I will indicate that in February of 2024, the defendant was arrested and charged with aggravated robbery with a gun specification, felony of the 1st degree, robbery, a felony of the 3rd degree with a firearm specification, and weapons under disability, a felony of the 3rd degree. He was indicted in Mahoning County on that offense, or those offenses, in May of 2024. He posted bond in June of 2024, and this offense occurred in July of 2024. So while under indictment for firearm charges, aggravated robbery, a crime of violence, this offense or these offenses were committed. You have not only destroyed the family of Nicole Calich, excuse me, but you are also have destroyed your own family and your future, whatever that future may have been. I find that you are a true danger to this society, and it is the worst form of the offense. Therefore, I find on count 1, murder, an unspecified felony, I'm imposing a life sentence with the eligibility of parole after 15 years. As to specification 1 to count 1, I'm imposing a mandatory 3-year prison sentence. Specification 1 to count 2, firearm specification, I'm imposing a mandatory 3-year sentence. As to count 3, felonious assault, specification 1 to count 3, firearm specification, I'm imposing under my discretion a 3-year sentence. And I'm finding that is a mandatory sentence. And on count 4, felonious assault, specification 1 to that count, I'm imposing a 3-year prison sentence, which is mandatory under my discretion. I'm ordering those specifications in counts 1, 2, 3, and 4 run consecutive and not concurrent for a total of 12 years of mandatory firearm specifications. As to count 6, I'm imposing 36 months in the Ohio Department of Corrections. I'm ordering that the 12 years in mandatory firearm specification sanction run consecutive and prior to the sentence that you are to serve on the count 1 as to murder. I'm also ordering that the 36 months run consecutive for a total of 30 years to life, meaning 30 years before you are eligible or will be before the parole board for consideration of release. I find that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime and to punish the offender, and is not disproportionate to the seriousness of the offender's conduct nor to the danger that he poses to the public. I find that this offense was committed while he was awaiting trial or sentencing, was under a residential, non-residential, or financial sanction, that being the bond in the indictment out of Mahoning County. I also find that 2 of these offenses were committed as part of one or more courses of conduct, and that the harm caused by 2 or more of those offenses was so great or unusual that no single prison term for any of the offenses committed as part of the course of conduct adequately reflects the seriousness of the conduct. And I further find that your criminal history demonstrates that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime by you. As to the weapon under disability, you'll be eligible, or if upon release, you'll be facing up to 2 years of discretionary post-release control, which is supervision by the Adult Parole Authority. The parole board will ultimately determine whether or not you are released when you appear before them at your first parole hearing at 30 years. You will be given credit for 353 days served in the Summit County Jail. And while I'm not imposing any fine, I am taking judgment against you for the cost of this prosecution. Because you have been convicted of a violent crime, you are required to enroll in the violent offender database personally with the sheriff in the county in which you reside 10 days after being released from prison. You must enroll in the county in which you intend to reside. If you are an out-of-state offender, you must enroll in the database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside, or occupy a dwelling in or occupying a dwelling in Ohio for an aggregate period in a calendar year of 14 days or more. You're required to provide the sheriff certain information regarding your full name and any alias you use, your residence address, your social security number, any driver's license number or commercial driver's license number or state identification card number issued to you, the name and address of any place where you are employed, information regarding the offense for which you were convicted or pleaded guilty, the name and address of any school or institution of higher education that you attend, the license plate number of each vehicle owned or operated by you or registered in your name, the vehicle identification number of each vehicle, and a description of each vehicle, a description of any scars, tattoos, or other distinguishing marks on your person. You are required to provide the sheriff fingerprints and palm prints. The sheriff will also obtain a photograph of you at the time of enrollment. After the date of initial enrollment, you are required to re-enroll annually, and you must update and or amend any of the information described above that has changed and provide any additional information requested at the county sheriff's office within 10 days of the anniversary of the calendar date on which you initially enrolled. If you change your residence address during the 10-year enrollment period, you will provide written notice of that change to the sheriff with whom you most recently enrolled and to the sheriff in the county in which you intend to reside within 3 business days of the change of address. You are required to comply with all of the above described requirements for a period of 10 years unless your sentencing court determines otherwise. Since your expected residence address is in Summit County, you will enroll in person no later than 10 days after release from the Ohio Department of Corrections with the County Sheriff's Office located at 205 East Crozier Street, Akron, Ohio 44311. Failure to enroll, failure to verify residence at a specified time will result in criminal prosecution. You will be required to sign this, not that you agree with it, but that you were read these requirements in open court, and you will be given a copy of this form. Mr. Pope, you have a right to appeal the verdict of the jury as well as my sentence. If you choose to appeal and you cannot afford an attorney, the court will appoint an attorney to represent you on that appeal. Do you understand those appellate rights? And any appeal must be filed within 30 days of today's date. Do you wish to appeal these convictions?
Yes.
All right. Based on that, then we will appoint Attorney Jim Reed as appellate counsel, and the court has already been in contact with him, and we will include that in the journal entry. If I indicated I'm not imposing any fines on this case, because these offenses are mandatory prison sentences, regarding the murder and the specifications. He is not entitled to earned credit as to those offenses. Here's the thing, Mr. Pope, we talked about this before the trial started. You know, whether or not you're paroled at the time that you're permitted to first appear before the parole board will completely depend on your behavior while in the penitentiary. You also have additional significant offenses that you have to face in Mahoning County. And whether or not that court runs those consecutive or concurrent will be completely up to that court. But I will tell you this, based on your behavior and the way you act, I doubt that you'll be granted parole at your first hearing. That's it, we're adjourned.
A final stern message from the judge. I've actually never heard that in all the cases I've ever covered. I've never heard a judge come right out and say that highly doubt you'll ever get parole or you will be paroled at your first hearing after spending 30 years in prison. That young man also faces felony charges out of Mahoning Valley. He was a month out of jail in Mahoning Valley when he committed this crime. He gets life in prison, first chance of parole at 30 years. You heard the discussion about his sister. His sister tried to testify against him, hoping that her sentence would be lessened. The judge didn't buy that either. She gave her 5 years for being the instigator in all of this and going over as her brother shot Miss Kalich in front of her 3-year-old child. A terrible situation all the way around. That's going to wrap it up. We'll have a complete update on this as well as all of the day's breaking news at 11 o'clock on Cleveland's 43, then at noon on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good afternoon.